In a London basement in 1821, a single wire begins to turn. No one is touching it. It circles a small magnet standing in a cup of mercury, around and around, and it does not stop. It is the first time anyone has ever turned electricity into continuous motion, the ancestor of every electric motor on Earth. But the man who built it had almost no training in mathematics. And that one fact nearly got the whole idea thrown away, not for being wrong, but for being written in the wrong language. This is the story of Michael Faraday, and of the idea his brilliant peers nearly discarded for the strangest of reasons. He had no equations to prove it. Faraday was born poor in 1791. At 14, he was apprenticed to a bookbinder, and while his hands stitched other people's books, his mind devoured them. He taught himself science straight off the pages he was binding. The one thing he never got was a real education in mathematics. So he did his thinking a different way. Where trained physicists reached for algebra, Faraday reached for images. He pictured invisible curves he called lines of force, threads of influence reaching out through the empty space around every magnet and every wire. He could see the physics. He simply could not calculate it. The year before, a Danish scientist named Hans Christian Ørsted had noticed something strange. Switch on an electric current, and a nearby compass needle twitches. Electricity and magnetism were somehow linked. Two of the finest minds in Britain, Humphrey Davy and William Hyde Wollaston, tried to turn that little twitch into continuous spinning motion. They could not do it. Then Faraday tried. He stood a magnet upright in a pool of mercury and hung a loose wire beside it. He sent a current through, and the wire swung into a circle around the magnet and kept going, round and round, the first steady motion ever drawn from electricity. In his notebook, he wrote just 2 words. Very satisfactory. But the triumph soured almost at once. Faraday's paper failed to credit Wollaston, who had chased the same idea first. Within a week, his own mentor, Davy, accused him of plagiarism. Stung, and under a cloud, Faraday set the whole subject of rotation aside for years. Meanwhile, the serious science of electricity was being written somewhere else, in mathematics. In France, André-Marie Ampère had wrapped the new forces in dense, elegant equations, forces that acted instantly across empty distance, the way gravity was thought to. Maxwell would later call him the Newton of electricity. To this world, physics simply was the math. If you could not write it as a formula, you were not really doing science. And Faraday's lines of force could not be written as a formula. So the establishment waved them off as vague and unmathematical, a picture for someone who could not handle the algebra. There was no single misplaced decimal point that buried the electric motor. The real error was larger and quieter than one wrong digit. A whole generation so certain that truth lived inside their equations, they nearly threw away the deepest idea in the room because it arrived without one. Yet Faraday's pictures kept paying off. 10 years on, he wound an iron ring with 2 coils of wire and found that a changing magnetic field, not a steady one, could push a current through metal it never touched. It was electromagnetic induction, the principle inside every generator and transformer alive today. The man with no equations kept discovering what the equations had missed. Then someone finally took the pictures seriously. In the 1850s, a young Scottish mathematician, James Clerk Maxwell, sat down not to correct Faraday but to translate him, to write the lines of force out as equations. Where the old guard had seen only empty distance between charges, Maxwell saw exactly what Faraday saw, a living medium filling all of space. Faraday, now an old man, read Maxwell's mathematics and could hardly believe his rough pictures had survived it. He wrote back, "I was at first almost frightened when I saw such mathematical force made to bear upon the subject, and then wondered to see that the subject stood it so well, and here is where it turns all the way around." In 1873, Maxwell published the great treatise that founded modern electromagnetism, and in its preface he gave his verdict. The way Faraday used his lines of force, he wrote, showed him to have been, in reality, a mathematician of a very high order. The man dismissed for having no mathematics had been doing the deepest mathematics of all, just without the symbols. And it was his picture, the field, not the old equations of action at a distance, that Maxwell's laws were built upon, the same laws that now turn the motors and generators running more than half the electricity on Earth. The idea, nearly thrown away for lacking a formula, had become the formula for the electric age. Every machine humming around you still turns on a picture the equations could not yet hold. If you like stories like this one, subscribe.